to the Trinity Force Podcast. Yo, it's that Triforce cast beaming straight to your home. Grab a beer so we know Pone ain't drinking alone. Send an email, a quick tweet, just pick up the phone. Leave a message at the beep if you're a creep, watch your tone. Discuss the meta game, patch notes, whatever helps your stats most. Obi-Pone Kenobi is your last hope to snatch gold. So grab your headphones and join in the fun. We'll try and force in some jokes and some cringeworthy puns. Yo, we can make it together, people. Trinity Force Podcast. These boys are second to none. Now that's the end of the intro. It's time we begun.
Hey guys, welcome to the Trinity Force Podcast. My name is Adam Pona, Phobia Cogswell, and once again I am hosting this lovely episode as we are walking into episode number 346, joined by four great guys this evening. First and foremost, Punchinello is with me.
Good evening.
Good evening, Punch. Talinasty is here.
Hey, you finally fixed my name. I love it. Oh, yeah. Now it's messed up on the display.
No, it's at the Talinasty, isn't it, on Twitter?
No.
Oh, that's what I've been typing for God knows.
New ways to screw it up every week.
Competence.
The best part is this time he's not even trying to fuck with you.
Yeah. If you want to find Talinasty on Twitter, it's at the Talinasty with an A instead of a Y. Chira is here.
What's up?
What up, Chira? And finally, our special guest for this week is Skyen from Caster Comix fame.
How y'all doing?
Welcome back, Skyen.
Thank you.
Glad to have you on board.
Back.
Surprised we didn't scare you off.
Space dragons.
Ooh.
Wait, we're talking about space dragons tonight?
Space dragons.
That's the rumor.
I thought it was a star dragon.
He chews up galaxies and then gets killed by a little Teemo with
Celestial.
darts.
Yeah.
Chipmunk.
I'm not sure how consistent the lore is on that.
Yeah, read the lore. Wasn't a fan of it. A guy who could literally chew up galaxies now is fighting in
He's
the...
basically God. He's like, I have created the universe, and now
he's a
I
star
will
god.
fight the small furry thing.
He's gonna get destroyed by a chick with a bikini with dagger.
A little girl with a teddy bear, right? All right, guys, I have the big announcement is finally here. We are at the end of the week, and like I said, so I've been teasing it for a few weeks. We had a big PAX announcement that goes along with our tournament this weekend on March 26th, and that is at PAX East. We will have a booth out in Boston sitting at the convention center. So if you guys are out at PAX East, you can come find the Trinity Force Network booth. We will have swag to give away. We have been partnered up with Sweetwater, and we have a podcasting setup to give away through the booth. We will have other swag such as I have stadium cups, I have pins, and I have pens to give away that all say Trinity Force Network on them. As well, if you visit the booth and you spin the wheel, you will automatically get entered to get 3 Champion Select podcasts just for spinning the wheel. I'm going to send you 3 of the Champion Select podcasts for coming out there and spinning it. It'll be really cool. So if you haven't had any Champion Select podcasts, you're going to be at PAX and you want to see what they're about, you'll spin the wheel. I'll take your email address and we will send you the Champion Select podcast at the end of the week. So that is our big, huge, awesome, exciting news. And there's more to it. So if you're coming to PAX, I don't have the full details yet on the date or the time, but I do know on Thursday night we are doing a fundraiser, an MS fundraiser, and we're going to be doing there's going to be some shoutcasted games that'll go out to our Twitch T-Force podcast stream. There will be prizes to give away if you're there. There'll be prizes to win on stream. That Sunday night we're going to have like a really awesome party, like an after party type of thing. Again, details are coming on that, but that's, if you're out there in the Boston area, you'll be able to come by and stop by and help us raise some money for MS awareness right before there. And that hopefully Ledger isn't going to pound my ass in for saying this because, yeah, everyone raised an eyebrow. Didn't mean it that way.
Phrasing.
He hopefully doesn't pound me to the ground for giving away the other 2 things we're doing, but I don't think it's that big a deal. I think we're also doing some Hearthstone fire gathering stuff, or it's not fire gathering. What's it called? It's called
Fireside gathering.
Fireside gathering. Thank you.
Fireside chat.
There'll be a live podcast that comes out of PAX. We're going to be teaming up with the Just Okay guys because they are coming out to PAX to walk around the floor. We're going to try to do a live podcast with them, or at least a recorded podcast that we'll put out later. And there's going to be a ton of stuff. And all of your donations through patreon.com/T-Force Network has brought us to this point where we are able to get a booth at PAX. And as well, we asked you guys at March 26th, 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time to come out and support us on twitch.tv/T-Force Podcast as we are trying to raise just a little little bit extra money to make sure that we can get some couple of other people out there. So come watch us, donate to the stream as we play. We're going to do some really stupid stuff. I mean, if you want to make me build frozen mallets all night, $10. It's just a $10 donation gets that game to build a frozen mallet. So it'll be a lot of fun.
It's going to happen.
I
Whether we
fully
like it or not.
expected. Yeah. And that is the Intra Podcast Tournament, by the way. So you can go check that out at T-Force Network subreddit. Lots and lots and lots of links. It's all on TrinityForceNetwork.com if you click on the latest episode. So there we go. Big, awesome news. I'm so excited to be able to go out to PAX and, bring you guys a ton of information. Oh, I also have to say, we're not going to PAX just for the booth either. We're going to send Serial Box, Kargan, myself. We're all going to go out and go give interviews. I've already been setting up interviews with like Runic Games to go see Hob, and we're going to be bringing all those as video content for you to see over at the T-Force Podcast YouTube as well, as we are branching out to like general gaming and whatnot. So big event. But let's go ahead and move forward and start talking about League of Legends, because that's obviously what we're here for. And there's a giant sky galaxy eating dragon that we need to talk about, and that's what this entire episode is going to cover, is Aurelion Sol. And Skyen specifically contacted me very enthusiastically and said, I want to talk about Aurelion Sol. Bring me on the podcast. I want to talk about art. I want to talk about how he plays, everything. So
Yeah, Skyen, how excited are you about this?
I was pretty excited about him because I love his design, and also I got to do some of the promotional work for him with Riot, a few memes for the Europe League of Legends account, which was great fun. And I got to see him before everybody else and sit around like, cannot talk, cannot say anything. If I talk to someone, I'll spill my guts and violate an NDA, which would have been bad. But yeah, I'm very excited about Aurelion Sol. I'm really pleased with how he looks and a lot of the ways that he plays in terms of just being a unique champion. We touched on the lore before. I think it's a bit inconsistent too, in terms of like he's literally God, and now he's here fucking around on Runeterra because he's mad at some people on a mountain, which is maybe that doesn't make too much internal sense. But then on the other hand, I don't know. None of the league champions do.
Well, yeah. What is his trivia or his background? He got tricked into serving some gods to do their bidding, and he was basically eating galaxies and destroying planets.
He was tricked by the people on Mount Targon.
He was like, he's basically a celestial being roaming around the universe, doing his thing, creating stars, all that fun stuff, and then the Targonians, kind of.
That sounds so stupid, that name.
In fake servitude, gave him a gift that in turn made him not be able to leave or do what he used to do. So he's like trapped.
So what did he do for them?
Oh, he wasn't
Did he
doing
make them
anything for
stars?
them. He came down because he was like interested in stuff, and they were like, "No, you're ours now. And if you hurt us,
He was just a
then
pet?
our stars disappear, or your stars disappear."
Yeah, he came down because he was sort of intrigued by humans, and he had fun playing God over them for a while and teaching them the secrets of the universe. Then the crown that he's got on his head, the golden thing on his head, they made it for him. Turns out it's a mind control device. He's pretty pissed about that. And then eventually it sort of stops working, and then the lore is that now he's finally free enough that he can start, going to Runeterra and killing them all.
It's like a less helpful version of Magneto's helmet that just fucks over the person wearing it.
So it's like the complete and total opposite of what Magneto's
That's
helmet
exactly
does.
what it is.
Like Magneto's helmet protects him, and this does
Aurelion
nothing.
Sol's
But he decided to keep it.
Yeah, that's
'Cause
what
it
I was
looks
thinking
cool.
too.
That's what he gets for fucking with humans.
Or is that what
Great.
humans get for fucking with him? Because now he is on the Earth
now he's
creating
mad.
stars, which doesn't make sense either. But hey, we're in a game where the little girl controls a bear that lights on fire. So what do we know?
My minor in physics has a couple issues with this.
Oh, well, let's talk about the art direction stuff, because you said you did promo with the EU West account, or the Europe account, I should say.
Yeah, the LOL-EU account, yeah. So, yeah, when they showed me some of the concept art first, I was sort of, well, this is going to be difficult to draw, because when you look at the splash art immediately, like, he's so detailed. There's so much. He's got the star stuff inside him, that little pocket universe, all the tattoos running down him. So trying to simplify that into something that was more, meme friendly was kind of an interesting challenge, but I think I came up with something that kind of worked. But that's the thing I first noticed about Aurelion, is that like literally the only solid part of him is his jaw, like his dragon face. That's literally the only part of him that's actually solid besides the jewelry that he's wearing, which is obviously the mind control stuff from Targon. So he's in that he's kind of an interesting champion because mostly he's transparent. Like about half of his body, the big tail that he carries around with him is basically isn't there. If you look at the model viewer on LOL King, actually, the tail doesn't render, I guess because some of the tech they use to make it appear in game doesn't quite work with the model viewer.
Yeah,
so
I mentioned
Is that
earlier.
because it's like
yeah, so Riot has talked about how it was really difficult to do Ao Shin, the dragon, because they couldn't make a model that looked like Eastern style dragon twisting and turning around the field. So I think maybe they've managed it by bisecting his model and making the transparent part a separate thing that follows him around. I'm not sure.
like a particle effect, maybe?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's got to be something like that because they did mention that if you hit his tail with a skill shot, he will not be hit. So they made his hitbox end at the I guess the most purple part of his tail rather than the spectral flowing part, which might come into with champion design. Something you don't think about is hit and hurt boxes when it comes to a champion.
Yeah.
And
You got such a long champion like this,
Yeah.
you gotta keep that in mind.
Yeah, they probably had to do something like that because if you could hit him full length, then he would have some trouble.
But I like how they tied the art in with that, so they actually made a visual indicator for, hey, his tail's transparent, you can't hit that. Stop.
Yeah.
Stop doing that.
I still can't wait for the rage in game. I hit that, I swear.
It's gonna
It's
happen.
gonna be fun.
It looks like the skin doesn't have the same issue in the model viewer. The Ashen Lord.
No,
Aurelion
I
Sol.
think his
it's
skin is
transparent
much more
though.
solid.
Still, yeah. But I don't know.
I need to pull up his model viewer so I can look at this.
It just it's funny because if you go to the original skin and it just looks like a Nocturne because he's missing half a body. Especially when he's floating and if you change it. But
Oh, he is. Look at that. Okay.
yeah, just do run haste. It's like
Yeah, he's basically Nocturne when you do that.
I was wondering how the tail and the length was going to come out before they put out that statement. They just did the little preview with just the abilities. Like I thought they would make that hittable, but then they'd give him like a higher health pool or something to deal with it. I'm not sure.
It's, speaking of art, I think it's interesting though. If you look at him in the model viewer and you look at him, maybe it changes in game because I don't have up his in-game model, but he looks solid.
Yeah, he looks very solid. I think that's mostly just a readability thing in terms of when you're on the Rift, you don't want the guy to be translucent because he's impossible to spot when he's moving.
Or differentiate between his body and his spells and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm all for it. Give me some particles and whatnot to show me that he's a giant floating universe essentially.
Yeah. In terms of his visual influences, by the way, he's sort of an interesting mix of like the classical Western dragon is all up. That's his face and his upper body is essentially sort of lizard-like with the long neck and sort of the frills around the back, like spines or scales. But the length of the body is much more inspired by Eastern dragons, which is what Ao Shin used to be before they had to change him up. So you can see some of the legacy of Ao Shin sort of still remaining in like the shape language of his body is very reminiscent of what they showed of him 4 years ago when they first announced
Right.
that dragon
Yeah.
champion. And I thought that's pretty interesting. Also, when you look at the champion insights for Aurelion, let me see if I can bring him up here. You get some of the older art of where he came from. God damn it!
Well, let's
Chrome not now.
while we're looking that up, maybe you can tell us more. Or somebody else on the podcast game. Let's talk about Ao Shin for a moment because that was a champion that was teased a very, very long time ago, and then people said he was like the dead champion. So why don't we give some insight into what that is for the people who might be new to this, new to League of Legends? Chira, did you look like you had something to say?
I mean, what do we know about Ao Shin other than he was
was
a cloud dragon that was hyped up as something that was going to be on Riot's potential release path at some point. And how many years ago was that? 2 or 3?
2 or 3, yeah. It was supposed to be like a wind dragon or something like that. That's what I remember.
Yeah, it was a cloud. I think it was a cloud dragon. I'm not sure. It's something like that, but
He's an
There was
airbender.
it actually had a teaser of him in Udyr's Ultimate
Spirit Guard
Skin
Udyr.
comic.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
Spirit
Yeah,
Guard
at the
Udyr
very
comic.
last pane of that, there was a big close up of the dragon they were
Oh shit, you're right.
wanting to show off. It was a really weird and unique situation because they teased this champion so far in advance, which they really hadn't done before. They didn't have a timetable when they would release it. They just said, "Hey guys, we're working on this. It's coming in the future sometime. We're really excited, and we had to show it to you."
Yeah, it was a bit of a mistake.
Never came.
I think they did like a live event where they drew him at one of the live events where they sometimes have the concept artists down and draw different pictures of him. And he was, yeah, I mean, if you look at some of his old kit, basically looked like he was supposed to throw lightning and tornadoes and stuff like that. So I guess the tornado survived somewhat in his swirling star
Makes sense.
thing that he throws around. But you can see, if you look at like Ao Shin, if you bring him up, he's on the League of Legends Wikia. He is very, very long-bodied, like really almost snake-like. And that's something that's the tech they said they had trouble getting to work, where that looks natural when you turn him around. Because League of Legends doesn't have a turning circle, unlike Dota, where you can do those easier sort of flowing motions. Well, League of Legends is just boom, 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 which, which just does not work with a very long champion, because if you do the ribbon kind of thing where where his back body just follows the front body, he just ends up in a tangle and it looks terrible.
I just saw a tweet, I think yesterday, where they just got Lissandra's hair to sway when she turns. So it definitely sounds like a technology that's still in progress. They still have to work on the turning physics of champions and how that interacts with clothing and whatnot.
Yeah, I don't know if they use tessellation or exactly what tech they do use, but it's something that's actually been really difficult in computer animation and computer graphics for a long time, is to get something to flow in a way that seems natural, because there's so much like wind resistance and math and how fast do they turn, how fast does it follow. It's actually very difficult to do correctly.
I love going back about 5 or 10 minutes here when you had spoke to how detailed the champion is. This reminded me because some of you out there might know that I have quite a number of tattoos in my body, right? And I actually have a very large dragon on my leg. And something that I didn't realize when I was doing the artwork was just, I always hear artists go, "Man, that's so many lines," or "That's so detailed, or this is going to take forever to do because it's so intricate." And when you look at the artwork of like Ao Shin or Aurelion Sol, you don't look and go, "Wow, that's really detailed." Most of us are kind of like overwhelmed, I would say. Like we look at it and go, "Wow, this guy looks really awesome." And then I like that you start bringing up the technical aspects of it. You're like, "Well, he's got tattoos and he's got lines, he's got swirly pieces and this and that." And it's something that I think would benefit more of us to pay attention to, how actually detailed some of these champions are.
Well, I mean, just look at it from an aspect in comparison to older champions, like even certain champions. Like, all right, so like Tarek is on, the cusp of being reworked, maybe getting some update visually as well. Or look at Poppy, pre-Poppy rework.
Oh God, I don't.
Those look like garbage compared to Aurelion Sol. This is on a whole different level in comparison to those, which I'm happy about.
You don't like plain block feet or pizza feet?
No, I hate
Pizza Feet, Master E.
Hate it.
Yeah, you can say a lot about vanilla League of Legends, but it wasn't pretty. It really wasn't a pretty game.
Well, let's talk about Aurelion Sol as a champion. I also kind of want to dive more in here, Skyen, with you as is what you got to do with Aurelion Sol, or like through this, did they just send you the artwork and say, "Hey, draw this up for us and here are some details," or did they allow you to see the champion in like early game models, or how did that all work? How did they go about doing that?
Yeah, I mean, when they first contacted me, it's like they had to figure out exactly what I was cleared to see, because he was still sort of in a processing phase of what do we want to show, what's actually going to be relevant. So it was like Ben Forbes, the guy who talked to me about it, basically was like, "I'm going to make a Google Drive folder and I'll put whatever in there that they say I can let you see." And that was basically, there was a splash art, a few videos of some of his abilities, and a few voice samples, just so I got the general idea of what the guy was supposed to be all about. But since mostly the things I drew ended up just being stupid puns, I didn't have to dive too deep into his lore. But I was very pleased with the Better Call Saul I came up with. I was quite pleased with that one. That was pretty good. And according to Ben, the entire office, like for several days, went around as like whenever they play tested him and was like, "Better Call Saul."
That's great. Well, let's dive into what this champion can do. And for those of you that might be living under a rock, I have no idea. I'm actually going to let Skyen take this one and spearhead the whole thing because he's so excited to talk about the dragon anyway. So why don't we start with his passive and move down the rest of his list?
Yeah, the passive is center of the universe, which is basically he's always orbited by 3 stars, unless he's under heavy CC or dead. And they do damage. Every time they hit something, they damage it, and they do damage by AP, and they do a lot of damage. And that's basically, as far as I can tell, that's where all of his damage is really supposed to come from. Everything else is kind of set up around setting his enemies up to be hit by his stars for whatever reason. So the stars are going to be the thing that makes Aurelion Sol. He's all about positioning, really, because you have to get the stars into position to hit multiple enemy members of the enemy team. Otherwise, he's pointless. Like, he literally cannot do a proper amount of damage without it. Certainly not in comparison to other AP mages.
Interesting addition to these stars. So the stars do 20 to 97 damage based on level. Like you said, they're always on. And that goes plus 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Plus 18 to 35% based on of AP. So you get a 0.18 to 0.35 AP ratio just base out of a passive. So really unique that we're getting a damaging passive or something that is always on, always doing damage. And it also automatically executes minions that are below 25 health as well.
Yeah, he's basically impossible to freeze lane with. Like, this is why I think he's not going to see a lot of play in the professional scenes, because if you play him as anything other than jungler and you take him to a lane, he's going to shove it. Like, there's literally no way around it, because unless you stay like a million miles away from the minions and are really good at positioning the stars so you only last hit what you want to hit, that lane is going to shove.
At least from some of the videos that I've seen and whatnot, most people are using the stars and like timing it to last hit with, so that they don't push all the time. Like, they'll try and knock something off on the fringe, but even still, you're going to be hitting minions more than you necessarily bargained for with your little swirly stars.
Right. Because he is range, but his auto attack range is within his
star range.
Range.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess they give him that execute, so if you're like a surgeon with it, you might be able to kind of freeze it, or at least not super push it.
It's going to be... I was watching the champion spotlight on this, and it was really interesting watching the person who I'm assuming it was Freak, but I don't know, whoever was playing it, like how they were moving the champion and just basing, obviously they're basing the majority of the damage off of center of the universe. And so it makes me wonder how many times Aurelion Sols, at least for the first month or so, or the first time you start playing them, are going to get in really bad positions to try to get that orbit within range to hit people. And specifically out of lane, let's say you're trying to harass with it, well, you have to walk toward a bush. Can you bait an Aurelion Sol to hit you, and can you use that as a mind game for yourself to set him up for a gank, for example?
Yeah, you should be able to, because his range, like his outer limit thing, is such a hard leash kind of on where Aurelion Sol can position himself, because if he moves too close, he can't do any damage to you. If he's too far away, same story.
Right. Well, I guess we should jump to W, because that's Celestial Expansion. Go ahead, Skyen, since you're the man of the hour.
All right. All of a sudden, I'm the host. Yeah.
Yes,
having
you
an
are.
easy night, Adam? Yeah. Basically, its passive causes the star's base damage to increase. So I suspect that's where people will be putting a lot of points in terms of just getting damage down on him. It's going to be 1 point in the other abilities just to get them down, and then probably that for the damage. It increases their base damage and it increases the range of the stars. It just pushes them out to a longer orbit where they move around faster a little bit, and they do more damage. So that's basically his tool for repositioning his stars in terms of if he wants to engage someone at long range. And I think just in terms of that would be how you play around an enemy champion, in terms of manipulating the range that they're at. If they're too far back, activate it. If they're too close, pull it back in, and try and sort of force champions to respect those two ranges all the time and think about, when am I in range of each of these cycles? It also costs mana all the time, so you can't just leave it on. So it's going to have to be a choice exactly how you want to play it.
When you say they start to move faster, that means they're going to move at the same orbit speed as if they were closer. So they have the same rate of orbit. They just have to move faster in order to reach that, correct?
Yeah, it's like a record player where the center bits of the record move around slower than the outer bits, because they have to make the full circle in the same time. So they'll be moving faster on the outer ranges just as units, but they'll make a full revolution in the same time it takes when they're closer.
I was waiting for Tally with his physics theory to jump in here. Give us the
No,
the
it's
math
just,
behind it.
I was going to
No.
get into the math, but I mean, the toggle reminds me mostly of like a Nivea. You just keep it on for a long period of time, although you can move it and you have to do these kind of precision placements to try to make sure people can't dodge it and whatnot. I kind of like it. I'm very excited to try them.
Yeah.
But
So that passive on that, when I mentioned earlier, was the 10 to 50 damage. That's each rank of W gives you that additional 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 damage, which is that's quite a bit to add with on top of a base level. Plus, it's increased. The passive automatically increases damage as you level up anyway. So the passive is gaining quite a bit of damage over time.
it does have a cooldown though, so you can't just constantly go up and down, although it goes from 6 seconds all the way down to 2.
So I'm wondering how quickly you can activate it again to bring them back in regards to last it in. If you want to bring it out and try and clip a minion and then bring it back in before it hits any other minions, are you able to do that? Or is there like a
You can
global
toggle it
cooldown?
off instantly, I think.
Okay.
I mean, it's a thing where you can toggle it on, then toggle it off. Then there's a
Then you gotta wait.
cooldown.
Okay.
There might be that like quarter of a second or half a second delay that they put in for similar champions like Mundo's W.
Right, but since they are moving more quickly, it's I don't think you're going to be able to only hit them with one star.
The timing's going to be.
Yeah,
Depends on your
zero.
positioning.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
'Cause
timing is
there's
crucial.
going to be some needs to be
Because
some
you could-
finesse.
Yeah, finesse. That's the word I was looking. Because you could press W and move forward, and then press it again and move backwards, and then you can kind of get basically a little spearhead almost of the star at the right moment and just clip one minion. Plus, it has an execute to make it a little bit easier, so you don't have to do like that super precise last thing you have to do with most other champions auto attacks. You could pretty much maybe just use this.
It's still an execute under 20 health. It's not that. I mean,
Yeah, but-
25 health.
That's huge early game.
Yes, for sure. To last hit something,
That's
level
enormous.
1. But Celestial Expansion, I gotta imagine that does some like just passively doing that damage level 1. If you get near somebody that doesn't threaten you, like you put a point in the W, I can't imagine he doesn't have the most harassed level 1 out of a champion. I mean, you're going to push the wave right away and potentially,
What, you
push
just
them
trying to
out.
bully out early?
Yeah, like the first 2 levels. Within the first 2 levels, I can imagine he could bully somebody out pretty quickly out of the lane, or at least blow a ton of health potions.
Yeah, if they don't, I mean, I think that's the thing about him is that because of that range limit is, if you play against him, you're gonna have to be in his face. Like even if you're a ranged champion, you're gonna want to go really close and unload your auto attacks and your damage, because once you're close, he can't touch you. So it's really gonna be mind games, I think. If you if you get tricked by him into staying away, staying at range, then he's got much better chances of hitting you with the W.
Correct.
So instead, you just turn and kill him.
Yeah, it's like you
With
basically have
Star
to run at
Surge.
him.
So yeah, let's talk about Star Surge, which is probably what I mean. Hell, all of his unique abilities besides R are pretty unique. I love that the range is X, meaning it has an infinite range. So Skyen again, Star Surge.
Yeah, basically, he fires a skill shot in a given direction, a little orb, and it grants him bonus movement speed while it's out, kind of like Ari's Q. And as long as it stays within his outer limit, that same range as the stars are orbiting, it will keep growing and growing and growing in size and have more and more AoE, even if the damage doesn't grow, but the area of effect does. And if it hits someone, it does a decent chunk of damage. It's 70, 110, 150, 190, 230 plus a 0.65 AP ratio. So that's kind of a big deal in burst, and it gets a stun off. So that's the kind of thing, if you just fire it and it hits your range, it's not that effective. It's a very short-range skill shot with a stun. Kind of like Anivia's, the Flash Frost, the orb she throws out that stuns people on hit.
Her Q. Yep.
Yeah. But if you nurture it, basically, if you throw it out from long range and stay with it as you head into lane or head on for a gank, then you get this huge, like, massive expanse of just this enormous AoE stun that you can unload by toggling it. That's the other cool thing about it, is it only activates when it hits the outer limit or if you re-toggle it, which means you can just throw it through things. Like, there's nothing can block it. Mm-hmm. So you can just keep going with it until you find something you want to hit and then land it. The problem, of course, being it can't change direction, so you really need to be on point with your skill shot. if you want to hit something. So I think people will be using that to come in from an angle until they have a big enough AoE that people just can't escape, or down the lane. So people have a fairly limited scope of where they can dodge to. But that is, again, I think this one is mostly meant to set him up for his passive once again, because it lands that AoE stun. He has some time to reposition himself and then get maybe 1 or 2 hit with the stars and lay down some burst damage that way.
And the bigger it is, the more people you stun, the more people you can line up with your stars. It all works together.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah, it's going to be dangerous to cluster against him.
I guess that moves into the Comet of Legend.
Yeah, it does, actually. That would be his E, which is probably like the longest range dash in the game and also the slowest. But basically, as he moves around, he gains escape velocity stacks, which they're kind of like static shift stacks. Like they build up as you move. Once you have them, you can pop the Comet of Legends, which will let you travel 3,000 to 7,000 range, depending on rank, across the map, over terrain, like past whatever the hell you want, until you reach either your endpoint, or you give him another movement command, or you get hit by damage. So it's like this really, really extremely long range, just I'm going to go that way and not stop for a while. And it also gives him bonus movement speed, as he's just moving normally. As long as he keeps moving in the same direction without turning too much, he gets up to 45% movement speed bonus, which is a pretty big deal. And, of course, while he's in the Comet of Legends, like you said, it leads into it. He can still cast the Star Surge and build it up. As he moves with the Comet of Legends, he can build up this massive, just galaxy-sized little star that can hit an entire enemy team if they don't get out of his way.
Or it just gets wind walled at the last second.
Yeah, or it gets wind
Fucking yes.
I actually don't know. The question is whether it counns as a projectile before you pop it.
Q
It
does.
probably does. It must.
I've seen it on Reddit from the PvE.
Yeah.
He went from spawn to the enemy base, and it just last second, whoop, wind wall.
Yeah, Braum and Yasuo are going to be very mean to him. But they can't block his stars, actually. Windwall and Braum Shield does not block his stars. So there's literally no way to block those except dodging them.
So he definitely seems like he's going to be wanting to, hit a good stun on a couple people and just stay on the outskirts of the fights, weaving in and out to try to hit people and stay safe. Then as far as E for the Roma.
Did they remove, when he was first put on the PBE, they had it so if you took damage at all, you lost stacks of escape velocity. Did they remove that?
I remember hearing that in the Spotlight, too.
In the Spotlight, yeah.
They did say it, that he does... if he's hit, he loses stacks.
I'm just looking for the text, yeah.
Yeah, that's another reason why I think he'll be played as a jungler, because if you're in lane, you're just going to get harassed and you're going to lose those stacks. And like, if you were in lane with that, what you would want to do was shove out the lane, use it to get to top or bottom lane for a gank, while building up a Star Surge, I guess, to hit the enemy and set it up for them. But like, if you get harassed in lane, you just simply can't. So I kind of suspect he's gonna if he sees play, it's gonna be in the jungle. He certainly can be a jungler.
Yeah, I said that too when I first saw him. I know Tally, I've been ribbing him about that, but the only problem that I really want him to be a jungler because I think he can do it fairly decently with a lot of repositioning, for his stars and the stun on his Q and whatnot. The only problem comes with the fact that he can't bush gank ever because his passive is, no matter where he's at, you can see his passive.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming it's out. I mean, it does orbit pretty close to him if he doesn't have W active.
If you stand in the little bush in the Baron, by the Baron pit, you can see his passive
death
orbit
bush
around him. Yeah.
They show that in the Spotlight.
If you're ganking a lane, that bush is going to come to effect.
No, but if you're ganking a lane, it's still going to come out.
Or if you're
but again, if you're really close to him until you activate W, so you can get into position before you actually hit your W, and then branch them out.
And a lot of times what jungler you want to do is, like, if you're in the tri-bush and you're getting top or bot, you wait till someone face checks it, and then you 2v1 them. Oh, I'm going to go ward because I want to be able to play safe, and then you hop out. He's going to see that, so...
Yeah, when he ganks, it's going to be, like, over the wall or something like that, where people can't spot him out. And that's another thing where you have to mind your positioning really carefully, because if the stars show when you're not ready to be seen, because that's going to happen if you are by the birds, by the raptors, and you stand inside that camp waiting to go over the wall, they're going to see your stars.
I mean, it'd be the same thing as if you're facing towards that wall and you popped Vise E or you threw a Nocturne Q over the wall, you're just gonna have to be
Constantly.
smarter about your positioning.
But I mean, if you're picking him, you're probably picking him because he has unique gank paths that no one else can do.
Yeah.
That's not named Rek'Sai.
Even
I did
Rek'Sai has
find-
limitations. It's more like if you get his E stacked up in the jungle, you could gank from spots that normally like Nocturne ganks from, like over those sort of walls and whatnot.
Sure.
I did find in the description that it does say that he loses his movement speed bonus when he takes champion damage or turret damage.
Yeah.
So it's just the movement speed bonus. It's not the stacks of velocity.
It says both bonuses.
Yeah,
So that includes the
both
movement speed
bonuses will be
bonus,
lost.
and I think that it also includes the stacks because it refers to him being able to trigger the Comet of Legend as a bonus as well.
That sucks if he actually loses all his stacks whenever he gets hit by an enemy champion, because that makes mid lane so much harder to play him. I mean, you can stack up if it stacks at the same rate as Static Shiv, because I haven't played him in the PvE or actually paid attention to his passive. But if it stacks at the same rate, you could kind of walk in a circle and walk around and get it stacked up fairly quickly before you can gank. But you can't do the normal push lane and then roam with your E down the bottom lane.
Yeah. Something else to note is that when he pops the E, whatever position he puts the ability in, there's going to be a little glowing marker that pops up. And I'm not sure if that's visible to the enemy team, but it certainly is to your own team. So you can signal where you want to go and let people know.
Well, let's talk about Voice of Light, too, since we haven't mentioned that yet.
Yeah, it's the least interesting one, honestly. It's
is.
a skill shot that does damage in a line and knocks people back to whatever his outer limit happens to be at the moment. So I think it's meant as a sort of oh shit button. Like, people get too close to him, he can't deal any damage to them. Voice of Light, push them back, start getting those stars pounding again. And I think that's essentially what it's meant to be. Outside of that, pretty decent burst at 2 to 400 magic damage plus 70% AP.
And a
Yeah,
decent
without
slow,
that,
too.
he's actually
And a decent
really
slow.
vulnerable. Especially, it seems like pre-6, he's going to be very susceptible to ganks, especially if you can bait out a Star Surge. So if his Q is down, and then your jungler comes in and he doesn't have stun for the jungler, he's going to be in trouble.
Yeah. He's basically dead if you get on top of him, I think. Which is why he's being recommended to be built pretty tanky. Rylai's Crystal Scepter, Rod of Ages, stuff like that. Probably, I would suspect we're gonna see a lot of Sonya's Hourglass on him too, because he can pop the Sonyas and the stars will still
Sit
revolve
there
around
for a
him.
while. Yeah. Sort of play like you would either a Karthus or
Swain.
or like a Swain. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder how well he does about clear. I mean, assuming he has the mana because he has a blue buff, or I wonder if he'd be a pretty decent siege champion, because that range in the activated W does decent. Does a decent amount of range. I wonder if he can siege pretty well to keep people off with the W active.
Doesn't seem as like instant clear as other champions have.
No,
Like
it'd probably
you-
take a couple passes.
Yeah, and you can't just like one shot away of like you can with like TF or Orianna or Ziggs and other mid laners that are kind of popular. But it definitely seems like that constant damage.
So some unique interactions with him is definitely like the Rylai's Crystal Scepter, because every time you're hit by one of the Qs, it gives you the full 40%. Because it's counted as a single target. Yeah.
That's kind of
Yeah.
wow. That counts as a single target.
Yeah, every single
I
one
think-
that hits.
That seems strong.
If I remember correctly, coming from and again, I didn't take notes on that from the Champion Spotlight, but
No, yeah, you seem. Oh yeah, it's the 40. Oh well, it's always the 40-second slow now, right? And it just
AoE is
lasts.
slower.
Yeah, it's a 40% slow for 1 second on Rylai's,
Yeah.
which is pretty good for not doing anything.
Oh yeah, sorry.
honestly.
Area effects 40%. That's where they changed that a while ago.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I'm thinking of dots. Dots is the multi hits is 20%. So yeah, but it'll restack the 40% every single time that it hits. The difference
so-
being single target area effect is how long it lasts.
So constant DPS zone control sort of mage.
But
Yeah, and
play
in a
if
siege
you-
situation, I'm not entirely sure, but I think the range of his expanded star range with the Celestial expansion, I think that counts pretty much so that you can skirt in and out of turret range, just to let them pop 1 star on an enemy champion, then go back. So I think he can shove enemy champions off the turret if he wants to, with a little bit of
Poke them
protection
and-
from his team.
and then get out of turret range before it fires on you and whatnot.
So this is why I'm
Yeah.
curious if maybe he would rush a tier over Roa. I mean, Roa seems really good for him because it'd make him tanky and whatnot. His base damages are decently high enough where if you're using W, kind of like think of it like Singe Q, and it constantly stacks the tier up as it's being used. You press W on Aurelion Sol, it's going to constantly stack the tier as well. So getting that early with his high base damage and the extra utility in his kit might be worth it because that gives you a shield later on. And a decent amount of AP. Plus, you can keep W on it. I mean, you look at him like a Nivea, and this begs the question: is he kind of like a Nivea, where what was it? Froggen back in season 2 was famous for saying that you could build anything on a Nivea and she'll work well because of the utility in her kit.
Pretty sure he built a Warmogs one game.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. Made his egg impossible
the
to kill.
difference, the difference to Anivia being that she has area control with the wall, and she has damage at any range inside of her range ability. Where Aurelion, he's so gated by that star outer limit that it's literally the only place he can really do damage is at that specific range. So I think it's going to be very much a positioning game with him. Like if you position well, you're going to do damage. If you don't position well, then you're just going to die like a chump.
Continue with that Anivia comparison. You brought up if you think he might, or Pone, you brought up earlier that it'd be interesting to see how well he plays in a siege comp. I wonder how well he'd play against a siege comp. It sounds like using W to clear, because that seems to be his only way to clear waves. If you use W, it sounds like he's going to be putting himself in danger to a team that's sieging against him. So it seems like a weakness in that regard, whereas Anivia, again, the mid-range mage comparison, is very good at stalling out a game. I don't know if Aurelion would be able to do that.
Yeah, Nivea could put her ult down and her Q and then walk backwards. Immediately do those two, and then, yeah. But he has to kind of stay in there longer.
Yeah, I think his Q can clear a wave once he has a couple of items. But he still has to follow that Q so it doesn't detonate before it gets into range. So yeah, I think if he's going to do anything against the siege, I suspect it's something like sneaking around the back, setting up as that four-man stun from the back and letting his team take a fight.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like his Q is not a terrible cooldown, and it does have the stun, so you could lead that into clear a minion wave, but you put yourself at more risk than you do other champions, because you have to, like you said, you have to lead it in, and then all of a sudden a blitz hook comes, and you don't really have anything to deal with that.
Go ahead.
But if you do have some protection, I imagine you could stun, any champions that are kind of under there, and if not just champions, all the minions get stunned there, and then your AoE just knocks them all down.
Yeah, I think it will work well with Morgana, with the Black Shield. If she Black Shields him before he goes in, and they can't crowd control him.
That's a lot of zone control and just fight control. That might be a good combo indeed.
So, if Q is considered, God damn it, I have a cat who is just won't leave me alone. I'm sorry. So if Q is considered a single target ability for each of those, does that make Will the Ancients heal you for 15% every time it hits?
You mean W?
No,
It applies spell effect as an area of effect ability. The Star Surge is an AoE.
Yeah,
so it'll heal 5% for everything you hit.
It's not that it doesn't count for AoE, it's just that they changed Rylai's a while ago. So you get the 40%, but it's for less amount of time. But yeah, it says spell vamp is reduced to 1/3 effectiveness. But I mean, still, that might be a possibility.
It might be, but the problem, I don't think you can really play him as a drain mage, like in terms of just stealing health back, because if you start taking damage before the fight starts, then chances are you're not going to survive long enough to be relevant.
Yeah.
Unless you have Zonias, and then you turn into a mini Swain.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nah, you're not tanky enough. Not without a Roa.
Well, and the other thing is too, there's not as many stacking abilities. Like if you were playing Swain, you could run in, pop your EQ, you're doing a bunch of extra damage, and then end up using your ult to sit there, get back whatever health you're missing. You're in Zonias, and you can still heal while you're in Zonias if you have your ult up. Or again, the Karthus comparison. You activate your E and you run in, and you're just sitting in the middle of a bunch of people doing a lot of damage. I would say that one is closer to Aurelion Sol. The only difference is that you don't want to position yourself around the comments. And with Karthus, if you're just standing in the AoE, you're taking the damage. With the Aurelion Sol, you can actually dodge them.
Okay, so two more questions here that are coming to mind as I read this. Spell shields, such as Banshees, do those get popped by the passive?
Yeah.
So Sivir shield would get popped by it as well. Does the way that he has to positions in a fight make him a good candidate to play with Sivir and Thrill of the Hunt, to stay on top of the enemy and use his passive to maneuver around the team fight?
Yeah, I think it benefits a lot from movement speed.
Could he outrun his Star Surge? Is that a worry? If he starts going
sure
too fast,
someone's
he
gonna
just
try it.
overtakes it.
With Home Guard, yeah. What happens if you have Home Guard and you pop your Star Surge in base? You outrun it, right? Because it doesn't
I've
move
seen
faster.
people having to sort of slow down and stutter step their way alongside it until they exit the base.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
I'm interested
funny-
to see if you can make some kind of like run at you comp with Aurelion Sol and Sivir. And like a Maokai
Just
2
an
to help.
Aurelion Sol and a Scion coming down lane with
Oh
their.
my god, that would be amazing!
Holy shit. That's a wombo combo I want to see.
Or you could even end up doing something like getting Aurelion Sol going and then having Shen ult him so he can eat some of the upfront damage and come in and taunt everybody while he still has his W active. Like
Oh
there,
my God, amazing
there's going to be a
idea.
bunch of interesting combinations that you're going to be able to pull off.
It does seem
I
like
think,
that'd be a
though-
good.
Go ahead.
It does seem like that'd be a kind of a good wombo. Is that you get a charged up Q coming from like far down lane, and then you get that big AoE stun, and you follow it up with your ult and that CC to follow.
I like
Yeah,
where
I
your
mean, it
head's
is a
at.
pretty big knockback. So, like, if he comes in from the back of anything, and he's going to be able to with his E, if he comes in from the back, stuns a few people, knocks them into the rest of his team, like that's. I think he's going to be really big if he's correctly set up in a team fight. But outside of that, I don't think he'll do well versus Poke, for instance. Because like Nidalee Spears are just going to come in from 10 million miles beyond what he can do anything about and whittle him down, and there's really nothing
Now-
he can do about it.
I'm thinking about this. Could he sweeper and then pop his E and like sweep a massive line of wards?
Yeah.
Like just to see where they would be at, not necessarily to kill them, but just to see them. Because like I see another issue being that if you're warding up your jungle well, and let's say that we are planning our little cheese move where we're gonna have Aurelion Sol jump to one side of the enemy team or like come in from behind or something like that and try to, you know, ultimately get a pick by knocking them into your team or whatever. Like having vision in any area that you were going to be fighting, if you didn't know where he was, turns that whole situation real bad for Aurelion Sol. like
you
what?
pop?
Oh no, this guy's gonna come in and try and, you know, split the team, and then it's like, oh, we had 2 wards in our jungle. We knew he flew in over here. Let's just not go anywhere near where he could screw us over.
I wonder if you could drop wards while you're and by that
That would be
factor,
sweet.
Use the sweeper while
can.
you're in the emote. You can. So then
Yeah,
if
the
you
only
use
thing
the
that takes
level
him out of
9
fight is damage or a move command.
I've seen that you could smite and do drive-by smites. I've seen that. And so my next follow-up was, Coach, if you get the level 9 sweeper, you should be able to, even if you don't care if you're spotted, because if you're disabling them, they're not going to see you. So if you could pop the E and then start that level 9 sweeper, the upgrade, you should be able to basically go into anywhere unseen.
How do you plan to auto attack them as you're flying by?
No,
You
I'm
don't
saying
kill them.
don't. You
Oh.
you go right over them. They're
Oh,
not
I
going to
know.
see you.
Right.
You're the
right.
It's like it's the old as a jungler. That's something I used to do. Is I'd sweep a bush while running through it and just go on through the gank. I don't care because if you see me sitting there and auto attacking, you'll get vision of me. But you just do the old good sweep as you go through the like the top lane bush and just finish the gank off. Like who
I'm
cares?
imagining the enemy team looking at their mini map and just their wards go dark one by one in a line.
I can't hear a word you're saying right now, dude.
He's talking
Robot.
about watching the map go dark one by
Yeah,
one.
that's the only way you would notice that's happening if you're looking at the mini map when it gets swept and you happen to notice the word go dark and you know for a fact that it wasn't about the timeout.
He can
So,
pretty much
like-
also just like sweep his own entire jungle. Like if it takes a diagonal path across it,
Yeah,
and you can pretty much figure out exactly where enemy wards are. If you, I think you'd be able to do that if you pop the sweeper.
I think the thing is though that you're kind of taking like gank paths, sort of like almost like a Rammus is, like that you don't really care. You're gonna come through lane and gank through lane anyway at like 700 move speed. I don't know what it actually is, but
Well, it's an additional 10% move speed. It's not super fast.
It's a.
Isn't it?
Hang on.
Well, here, voice.
No, it's 25, 30, 35,
There it
40,
is.
and 45.
45% movement speed, and you're going over any obstacle that would be in your way. So you can cancel that at any time, correct? Yourself? Okay.
And
So,
if you have
yeah.
Moby boots or something, you're gonna go real fast over long distances.
Oh shit! I didn't even think about that. So you're probably ganking from pretty much base or like in your jungle area if you are bringing him in the jungle, or I don't know, when you're coming back from lane, like you get a kill in mid or you push out mid, you recall, you get some items, and then you go gank bot lane. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be scared to take a Baron if an Aurelion is on the other team. Because, like, especially if he's on red side, he can basically just come in from base with a Star Search that's bigger than the Baron pit. And there's not going to be a lot you can do to dodge it without a lot of wards in the enemy jungle.
Can he Q and then E?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you use it.
He can also use the Q while he's in the flight already.
Oh.
And it'll pretty much follow him at the same speed he's going.
So that means he can stand behind the Baron pit too and push out his W and passively hit Baron as he walks around and potentially steal it.
So him and another long range AD carry and some jungler can just 2-man, 3-man Baron over the wall.
Yeah, right. This isn't season 3 again, where we had that little area where Caitlyn could stand there and attack Baron without getting hit.
Can she not?
I think
They get rid of
Tristana can at max rank, if I remember correctly.
I think Caitlyn 10 too still.
Can't
Her rank hasn't changed.
Yeah, but she had to stand like in a little special spot to do it.
Yeah.
They get rid of that? I don't remember that. Anyway,
It's been such a long time ago that was ever an issue or a problem. We're talking 3 seasons probably.
I don't think that was ever a problem. I remember that
They did it in an LCS game like one time,
Yeah.
and then and people
Yeah.
cried foul.
Did they? I remember using that for a long time. Like it was used. It was like a well-known spot.
I don't know. I'd have to look it up. And
I think they fixed
how the
it
hell
with
do you
the
find
update.
it? Yeah, I want to say they fixed it. Yeah, with the Summoner's Rift update, I want to say they fixed that
Maybe.
little spot.
I'm curious.
We can look it up. We can always find out later and then edit it into the notes of the episode. So, well, I mean that pretty much covers Aurelion Sol. I kind of want to end this episode asking Skyen, because last time you were on here, you gave us an example of what you were trying to do in the future and pushing forward. And I saw that I don't know, a few months ago you lost some shit on Tumblr, and now you're back at it and making Caster Comix again. So what's next on the plate for Skyen?
For me, I mean, just getting through the year, I think. But yeah, the website did go down. I hosted Caster Comix on Tumblr because it's free and it's fairly simple. But then some sort of glitch happened on Tumblr, deleted everything I had, and immediately, because it was a fairly popular blog, it got astroturfed by some bot. So right now, castercomics.tumblr.com is an advertisement for Christian play spaces. I'm not entirely sure.
Oh God.
So I had to set up a new website, which was fortunately easier than I thought. And yeah, I'm back to trying to make comics, and I'm doing. If I don't know if anyone's really in your audience is that interested in the Australian scene, but I am doing some comics for Riot Australia, where the LCS recap comics basically, except for the professional Australian scene, where I do the same sort of comic recaps that I normally do, which have been pretty popular with that audience, I think. At least by the comments they leave below them.
Yeah, everyone, come on, Skyen. Everybody loves your art, man.
Yeah, well, it's if you're an artist, it's hard to believe anyone likes what you do. Unfortunately, the problem as an artist is that you look at something you've done, and the only thing you see is all the shit you could have done
All
better.
the flaws. Yeah, but you're the only one that sees that. Everyone else just sees that and says, "I could never do something like that." At least me. That's the way I look at art. I'm like,
Yeah, that's the thing you have to learn as an artist, is that like you're the only guy who sees it. Everyone else just. My favorite analogy about that is the notion of some guy brings a cake to a party, and it's a fantastic cake. It's got 3 layers and figurines and little stuff, and then some other guy brings another cake, and it's just a single layer cake with a bit of frosting and stuff, and he just thinks, "Oh my God, my cake is shit. That cake is so much more awesome than mine." But everybody who's at the party is just going to see that and go, "Holy shit, 2 cakes!"
Yup. That's great.
As I would say, I'm an equal opportunity cake consumer.
Jira doesn't care. Chocolate, vanilla,
Whatever.
rainbow. Just put cake
is
in my
be-
face.
All cakes are beautiful.
He doesn't cake discriminate.
Well, that pretty much ends us in the episode, Skyen. I guess I give you one last chance if you have anything big you want people to take a look out for, or anything else that we may have missed. Now's your opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, guess follow me on Twitter. It's at TBSKYEN, and
You're very
you're
active.
I am. Yes, I
appreciate
sort of try to
that.
spread it out.
It's entertaining.
And if you feel inclined to support the artwork that I do and like helping me make my bills and my student loan payments, you can go to patreon.com/Caster Comix, and every single time you put money into my Patreon, you will get credits that you can put toward a custom art commission of basically whatever you like. I can draw you avatars, and you also get discounts on those same commissions just for being a supporter. So I try to make it worth your while outside of just supporting the comic. And while you're at it, why not check out the T-Force Patreon as well, where they have great rewards and great podcasts and all sorts of fantastic benefits for people who support independent League of Legends podcasting.
That's a great idea.
That's a great idea.
Check it out now.
Well, speaking of that, what you just mentioned about using your bank stuff, we're going to talk after this podcast a little about that, because I do have some work for you.
Fantastic.
Paid work that's going to go above and beyond what I have already stocked it, piled up. So hopefully we can get to talk about that. But thank you so much, Skyen, for jumping on the podcast tonight and chatting with us. I think you have done a better job of talking about Aurelion Sol than the four of us could have done combined. So thank you.
Well, you're very welcome.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for listening to the Trinity Force podcast. Please support us on March 26th at 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Twitch TV for T-Force podcast. Please go support Caster Comix with an X over at patreon.com. He'll draw you up some nice fancy artwork. You can get like a nice little avatar for your Twitter, and people will be able to see that, and they'll love it, right? Or you can use it on Facebook or whatever you want. I mean, make your wedding invitations through Skyen. He would happily make those for you. I know how.
I will draw anything for money. Anything.
Even dickheads.
Yeah, as Adam found out.
Yeah, that little piece you drew is still my Twitter avatar. Me kind of going, what? It's great. So thanks again, Skyen, for coming on. Thanks everyone for listening to the Trinity Force podcast, guys. We will see you on Monday. Have a good one.
See ya.
See you guys.